Okay, I wanted to speak primarily about our reforms to the Future Fund, but I've got a couple of other issues to cover off as well. First of all, I want to say that I am a big supporter of the Future Fund. I am a big believer in its role and in its potential in our economy as well. And I've said on a number of occasions, and I say again today, I pay tribute to Treasurer Costello for setting up the Future Fund. I see it as one of the big national economic advantages that we have, given all of the global economic uncertainty, but also all of the economic opportunity which is before us in the defining decade and beyond. And so today we are announcing new steps which are all about the future of the Future Fund. We will modernise the Future Fund, building on its success to ensure that it can play an enduring and prominent role in our economy in the service of our national economic interests. We are refreshing and renewing this really core economic institution to make it stronger, to make it more successful, and also to make it more sustainable into the future. And our changes that we're announcing today, and I'm announcing on behalf of myself and obviously Minister Gallagher and the government more broadly, there are three key changes that we're announcing today. First of all, making sure the fund is an ongoing feature of our economy. Secondly, issuing a new investment mandate to maximise the fund's role in a changing economy, and also releasing the first statement of expectations for the Future Fund in something like 15 years. As I said before, we've got a raft of economic challenges and opportunities, and one of the big advantages that we have going for us is this huge pool of capital in the Future Fund. The Future Fund already plays a really important role in the economy, and we want to make sure that we can maximise its role in the years ahead, especially in the context of all of these structural shifts that we've talked about on a number of occasions before, laid bare in the intergenerational report, but largely the big transformational pulses in our economy, technological, demographic, global fragmentation, and the like. And so a lot of the changes that we're proposing today, or all the changes that we're proposing today, are in the context of all of that churn and change in the global and domestic economies. Now, I want to make it really clear that we are not changing the fundamental focus of the Future Fund when it comes to maximising returns. The Future Fund will still focus primarily on maximising its returns, but this will make sure that we can also maximise our opportunities in the context of our national economic interest as well. The new investment mandate will require the fund to consider priorities like housing, the energy transformation, and also making sure that when it comes to infrastructure, that there's a particular emphasis on resilience and security as well. So the three priorities: increasing the supply of residential housing, supporting the energy transition, and delivering improved infrastructure, including in relation to economic resilience and security infrastructure as well. So this will mean more investment where we need it most, but without compromising the returns, which will continue to be the primary focus of the Future Fund. We're also locking in the Future Fund and its role in strengthening the Commonwealth's long-term financial position and covering those unfunded superannuation liabilities. And the way that we're doing this is that we're announcing that we will not start any drawdowns from the fund until at least 2032-33. And this is so that we can provide the Future Fund with the certainty that it needs to continue to build its portfolio. And it's pretty remarkable that the core Future Fund, the $230 billion part of the Future Fund, is expected to grow to $380 billion by 2032-33. I also want to be really clear that the government remains committed to the Future Fund's independence and to its commercial focus. There are no changes being proposed here to the existing benchmark rate of return or the risk profile. The government will not be directing specific investments being made by the fund. The fund and its board will continue to make its decisions about investments independently. Its primary objective will be to continue to maximise returns. The benchmark return rate will remain at between 4 and 5% above CPI per annum over the long term, and there'll be no change to the expected risk profile. So this is about ensuring that the fund will continue to provide strong returns to the government's balance sheet while also supporting some of those big national priorities where it can. I wanted to say that we've been working closely with the Future Fund on these changes. Katie Gallagher and I actually attended the board meeting of the Future Fund in August, and we briefed the board members and discussed with board members there a very, very productive discussion that we're very grateful for. These changes have been in the works for some time. We've been considering the future of the Future Fund for some time. We've included the chair of the Future Fund and also the board of the Future Fund in those conversations to make sure that we can get to the outcome that we're announcing today. And I really wanted to genuinely thank the board members and the chair for all of that engagement over the course of some period of time now. So these changes will strengthen the Future Fund and they'll strengthen the Australian economy more broadly as a consequence. Now, a couple of other issues to touch on. First of all, I wanted to say that both headline and underlying inflation in the UK went up overnight. What that means is that inflation is now rising in the UK, the US, Canada and Europe, while it's falling here in Australia. And as I said yesterday in that ministerial statement, we've made very welcome, encouraging progress in the fight against inflation, but we know it's not mission accomplished. We've seen around the world that inflation doesn't always come down in a perfectly straight line. We're seeing that in major advanced economies right now. We are maintaining a primary focus on this fight against inflation and helping people with the cost of living, but we've made sure that the reform wheels are continuing to turn in our economy at the same time. So if you think about that in the context of these Future Fund announcements today, but also what I said last week about the new single front door, the productivity fund we're agreeing with the states, the changes to cash acceptance, the retirement phase of superannuation, the mergers legislation which is going through the House of Representatives today, the biggest change in the mergers regime in 5 decades. This shows that we've been able to maintain a primary focus on cost of living and fighting inflation, but at the same time as we've kept the reform wheels turning in our economy at the same time. And if there's a common theme of so much of what we're trying to do, whether it's in the Future Fund, the Productivity Fund, the single front door, we are trying to make sure that the flow of capital in our economy serves our national economic interests and, most importantly of all, serves our workers and communities, our businesses and investors at the same time. I encourage you to see these changes in that light. One final thing before I take your questions. Bill Shorten gives his valedictory today. Bill Shorten has so much to be proud of, and we are so proud of him. And we're looking forward to hearing from him this afternoon, but also recognising and remembering that Bill's got still a lot of work to do and a huge contribution to make in this parliamentary term and beyond that as well. I work really closely with Bill on the NDIS and on a whole range of issues as well. And as I said, he has so much to be proud of, and the Labor Party is very proud of Bill. Happy to take some questions. We'll go Andrew, then Mark, and then keep going around.
When Peter Costello devised the Future Fund, he described it as a locked box that would stop it from being tampered with by for party political purposes. You say you're not changing its primary focus, and that is best returns possible. But what do you say to those who say, well, you clearly are fiddling with it by giving it a mandate, an investment mandate focusing on housing, energy and infrastructure, particularly when you have other funds that are precisely for that? And take housing, for example, that housing is not, the money's not the issue, it's finding the people to build the houses.
Yeah, we're working on that as well. You know, we do need to make sure we've got the skills base to build more homes. But we need to come at this housing challenge from a whole range of perspectives and policies, and that's what we're doing. A couple of things about the first part of your question. You know, I respect Peter Costello, and I've paid tribute to him on a number of occasions for setting up the fund. I think it would be strange to set something up in the early 2000s and pretend that exactly as he's had set it up would endure for the rest of time. And my job is to make sure that our economic institutions, the ones I support, the ones with big roles and potentials in our economy that I welcome, that they're the best versions of themselves. And you've seen me put this kind of effort into some of the other institutions as well. This is about modernising the Future Fund and making sure it serves our national economic interests to the ultimate benefit of the Australian people. And so I think it would be unrealistic for Peter to assume that as he set things up 2 decades ago would continue forever. My job is not to preserve what I've inherited, it's to improve it, and that's what we're doing. And then when it comes to some of these investments, the other important point is that the Future Fund is already investing in some of these areas. It already holds a range of assets consistent with the national priorities. They've got over $1 billion invested in wind and solar. That makes them one of the biggest investors in renewables in Australia, and they've got other investments as well.
Isn't that the point, that if it makes investment sense, they'll do it anyway? So why mandate, which means that they're going to have to make decisions that aren't the best for returns? No,
I completely reject that last part of your question. And I've said repeatedly here and in the material that we've released to you that the primary objective of the fund is to maximise returns. We haven't changed our expectations of risk. We haven't changed our expectations of rate of return. What we've said is when the fund is comparing possible investments with similar levels of return, those investments should be cognisant of some of the big economic challenges and opportunities that we have. And I'm yet to find anyone objective who doesn't think we need more investment in housing, energy or hardening our infrastructure.